What you got over there, Brandon? What's going on?
What's up with that, Jess?
Sorry, I can't hear you. It's a little loud over there. You know you doing construction? What is that?
Yeah, Jess, I'm just fortifying my structure. A lot of haters coming at me these days for
Right,
being a Dodger fan, dude. We ruined baseball, dude. Deferred
right.
Collusion. We're back, baby.
We are.
It's
It's January 25th, the year of our baseball lord 2025. And
love it.
before we get into anything, welcome back, everybody. Please, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff to help us out. We appreciate everybody, always chiming in and engaging. So
Love it.
make sure you guys are doing that. But Brandon, I understand that you have a little fun fact about today.
I do. Jesse Rowe, my
Yeah,
host with the most. Brandon, your boy, with a fun fact. January 25th.
yeah.
It's a freaking historic day for baseball. Jess, January 25th has the lowest accumulated WAR of any baseball player born on this day, Jess. That's my boy Danny Richardson with a 16.4 accumulated WAR over his big league career in the late 1880s, which we all remember. But
So,
Jess, did
so
you know that
go
that
ahead.
16.4 WAR is the lowest accumulated WAR of any player born in the 366-day calendar year? Did you know that?
365 or 366? Are we in a leap year? What's happening here?
Sometimes we are.
Okay. So
Shouts out February 29th.
out of all of the days of the year, January 25, the highest career WAR of any player born on that day is the lowest WAR of any other date in the calendar year. Is that what you're saying?
Of all time. Yes, sir.
Wow. Well, so what basically what I have to say about this is if guys, anybody out there has kids that they were born on January 25th, you might want to consider like becoming an accountant or, like getting into law school or something like that. Anyways, we're
Yes, it's good to be back.
it is good to be back, and we got introduced to our to Roki Sasaki got introduced to the Dodgers media the other day. He was on full display. Everybody got a chance to meet him via Will the Thrill, as we call him, the translator. Not
I
Ippei
love Will.
Mizuhara, which we will talk about, by the way. But
Whoa, dude.
yeah, what was your first impression of Roki? And I'll say this: he's adorable. He's just
Okay.
adorable.
Okay.
What a sweet looking guy.
Yeah, you kind of took the words out of my head. But yeah, no, he looks like right, maybe not your prototypical superstar, right? Like maybe not your prototypical like number one prospect in all of baseball. But kind of shy, maybe not so media trained. Sometimes seemed a little short in his answers, and at other times almost like uncharacteristically earnest. Right? He
Yeah.
spoke a little bit about his sympathy for the fires in LA as a person who has survived natural disaster. It really hits close to home for him. So it was cool to hear him talk about that a little bit. Some more of his choices, or some of the reasons behind his choices. Found out that Shohei rolled up with Decoy for their final meeting
Yeah.
with Roki to help convince him to come to the Dodgers because Roki is a huge dog lover.
Oh,
His dog
wow.
watches all of his games. They showed a little clip of Roki pitching and his dog's wearing a Roki jacket or a jersey up on the TV. It's just adorable. Who doesn't love their dog? That's about as down home country as it gets. I'm
Yeah, he was
excited. I'm
at
really
sorry, it was
excited to
at
see
the
Roki.
it was at a Bel Air mansion of one of the Dodgers minority owners, I believe. I forget the guy's name. It was at the Bel
Yeah.
Air mansion. I know that like Will Smith was there. It didn't make mention of Yamamoto. The article that I read. I'm imagining Yama was there.
No, he
Uh,
was not. He was
he
out of
wasn't?
town. But Kershaw was, who,
Yeah, yeah,
as you
yeah.
know, is currently not signed with the Dodgers, but
Yeah.
widely expected to re-sign the GOAT, with all
Yeah.
due respect.
But you did mention that Roki, number one prospect in all of baseball. This was just announced the other day that he is officially the number one prospect in all of baseball. And there was some like stink about this because Roki has been a professional for the past 4 years. Like, should he be considered like should he be considered in that ilk? And I mean, I understand that frustration, but I don't know how you couldn't. Just because
I
whether you don't think he's number one is up for debate. Like, because I know that there are some other players out there that deserve the argument, but like I don't understand how he wouldn't be ranked in that regard.
Yeah. And I guess it's kind of just how the term is like used. I'm
Yeah.
assuming when I think of prospect, I think of somebody coming up through the league as opposed to, I guess, somebody just entering the league. I
Right.
guess for MLB's, like, I don't know, vision of itself, it's like, oh, well, anything outside of this isn't major league. Even if you're playing in the pros in another country,
Well,
it's not the pros to us. You're
the way
still
I
a
would imagine, the
prospect.
way I would frame it is like, did you see Luke? Like most people who get drafted in the NBA draft, for example, like they're coming out of college, right?
Mhm.
But like Luka Doncic was coming over from the Slovenian league, like he'd been playing with like top
Yeah.
professionals. That's why he was so polished and ready to go. I didn't see him as like an NBA prospect. I saw him as
Yeah.
like sort of like a pro-ready rookie. So I don't know. I could sort of see it, but like at the same time, uh, it's baseball, man. This is it makes sense to me because when everybody wanted this guy, you're the number two ranked free agent on the market going into the offseason. You know, I think it's fair game to call you the number one prospect. But yeah, it was just really cool to see him sort of wearing that uniform and stuff. It was just cool, man.
It was really rad. And
Yeah,
you could feel haters everywhere just really seething. Um,
yeah.
I was reading some, I guess, like Japanese speaking fans that were watching it were saying that Will was kind of leaving out some of the translations of Roki, that maybe he was speaking a little bit more eloquently than the answers that were given. But Jess, it is nothing compared to what America's least favorite interpreter uh, was caught just doing by the
Yeah.
freaking FBI. Was it the FBI, right? The
Well,
prosecution supplied this
so
audio recording, right?
the process the prosecutors of Shohei Ohtani, I guess, brought forward an
No,
audio
not the
recording.
prosecutors of Shohei Ohtani. The
Sorry,
prosecutors of Shohei's
of Ippei
former
Mizuhara.
interpreter,
They
Ippei Mizuhara.
Right. So the prosecutors who are prosecuting Ippei brought forward and put into evidence a an audio recording of Ippei calling a Shohei Ohtani's bank and essentially acting as if he was Shohei Ohtani. And I got this is a very serious matter. This is obviously like there are dire consequences for our boy Ippei here, and I don't mean to make light of it, but I was laughing my ass off when I listened to this because I couldn't believe how careless and how just flagrantly, like just disrespectful and like just absolutely like no regard for any sort of like just any sort of cover up at all, like just or trying to sorry, not cover up, I don't want to use that word, but any sort of like acknowledgement that you could get caught. He just seemed so sure that he was just going to get away with this. Just take a listen, Brandon. Just take a listen here. So this is sorry. So this is the start of the audio recording.
Shohei Ohtani. Thank you. How may I help you?
It's Shohei Ohtani.
So I tried to log into online banking and it told me it's not available to me at this time. I need to call. Sure, I can take a look into that. Alrighty. And could you tell me the name of the payee and the amount of the transaction, please? The person I'm sending to? Yes.
So
It's for $200,000.
Jesus.
I don't want to go play the whole thing. Like you guys probably have heard it, or you can go listen to it. Notice how in that first, I just noticed she asks, "Can you tell me the name of the payee and how much the money is?" He doesn't say the payee's name, but he says the amount of money. He clearly was trying to cover that up. But I mean, could have made a little bit of effort there. Like I don't want to be stereotypes or anything, but like if anybody's allowed to do it, it would probably be Ippei. But like you could just make like a little effort to try to sound like Shohei. Because I'm listening to that, and I'm like, no, that's just Ippei.
Yeah, it
That's
just sounds
Ippei
like a
talking.
guy who didn't go to UC Riverside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But dude, that is wild to me. Just some of the statements that Ippei has made to the prosecutors have got me feeling for him a little bit, right? Like it's got me feeling as a human being, I know he mentioned that him and his wife are trying to have a kid, and they're getting older, and if he goes to jail, they won't be able to. I feel that sucks. Like that when he was gambling. I mean, it sounds like the guy had a real addiction, right? He was saying that even when he was losing, that there was only the like sense of possibility, or even when he was gambling, there was never a sense of losing. There was just a sense of like endless possibility. Like this was going to be the next one that hit for him.
He
And
said
like,
the only time he felt hope was when he was gambling,
which is crazy, right? Yeah, he said
Yeah.
he was overworked and underpaid, which we can all relate to. But like,
wasn't he
dude,
like
that
one
doesn't
of
give you
the
the license
most well-paid
to
translators,
steal,
though?
to commit like wire fraud against
Yeah.
your employer, let alone your employer. Like, he was brought into this guy, to Shohei's inner circle, in a very, very like private way, and like to get stolen from like that and just deceived, like that's
No.
that's kind of like a life-changing like betrayal, right? Like,
It's
I'm
so
sure the way
right.
Shohei goes about his business is even more like tight knit than it was before. I know Mookie was just on a podcast talking about what it's like to be around Shohei, and that, when he's in the clubhouse, he's lounging around, doing his work, hanging out by his locker, and then on the field, whatever. But as soon as it's over, they're like, you can't get to him. He can't go anywhere. I know Mookie was in Japan and spent a little time with Shohei, and they were just saying like, he's like a god out there, that everywhere he goes, like people stop, and it's just, he's never seen anything like it. And that's coming from Mookie Betts, right? A star, a mega star in his own right, saying that he's never seen anything like this, right? So a guy that can't go anywhere, that can only be with people in his inner circle, then gets stolen from and lied to by the guy that he's trusting to be his voice in a foreign country. I mean, dude, my heart breaks for Shohei.
Yeah.
So everything that I say about, I really feel for the humanity side of it, for Ippei. Like, we've all fucked up, but like, man, you gotta pay the Pied Piper, dude. 16 milli is a lot of green, dude. And
Yeah,
to say like,
he's
I didn't know
clearly-
my bookie was illegal until 2023.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean, that's a little goofy. Like, this whole like Ippei is just this like kind of like, like misguided idiot. Like, this wasn't malevolent at all. Just kind of is bullshit to me. Like, you knew what you were doing when you were stealing the first time, the fourth time, the 100th time, and pulling out fucking $300K and lying to some lady on the phone and going like, oh, it's for a car loan. I mean, dude, you
what
gotta
kind
be
of
a
car are
fucking...
you loaning, by the way? That's for $200,000. Are you buying somebody a fucking Lambo? Like, are you buying somebody a Bentley? That's a lot of money for a car loan. And it's obviously, if you're looking at this objectively, it's obviously just betrayal of the highest order. All of the evidence points to it. The FBI is not going to engage in a cover-up for Shohei Ohtani in Major League Baseball. They're just not going to do that. Regardless of that, there are still people. I mean, if you go in comment sections, who believe that this is like that Ippei is like being held at gunpoint in these audio recordings, like by Shohei, to like pretend that he's Shohei, to make it like the transactions for him. Like, why would he say I am Shohei Ohtani? Why wouldn't Shohei just do it himself?
Yeah,
If
and that's just some
it
people
makes
that
no
like
sense.
to
It makes
see...
no sense at all.
Yeah, and there's
yeah.
just a subset of the population that it doesn't matter who, what...
They just hate the Dodgers, and they just are they're choosing to believe what they want to believe at this point, because they're like, they just want to hate on them, which I understand. That's fine. But
Yeah,
like, in this regard, on this issue, like, it's very serious, and if you're not thinking like critically and honestly about it, then you're just kind of being a fucking douchebag, because this is actually like somebody's like life, who almost like, who's like life's earnings, like everything he's ever done was like stolen from him by his best friend, and you're like, like, to have like no sympathy about it because you don't like the Dodgers just kind of makes you a fucking douche.
Yeah, man. Some people, and I don't even think it's just a Dodgers thing. There's a subset of the population that just wants to see like idols torn down. It doesn't matter if they're a musician or a politician or a sports star. They're like, oh no, they're fuck you, right? And it's a little bit of your own jealousy or your own frustration. But like, to your point, like, to just ignore all the facts and like what's plainly happening is just like, Okay, you just want this guy to be guilty so you
Bro.
can see he's not very good. The Dodgers are bullshit.
Bro, let me lay it out for
Ohtani's
you.
bullshit.
Let me lay it out for you. MLB said that they concluded an investigation. Okay, fine. They have reason to protect Shohei because he's a big breadwinner for them, right? The
He's
FBI
Elvis.
has absolutely no incentive to do so. To get them to like engage in that that there are too many people, there are too many levers, there are too many people that would be involved in this that wouldn't be willing to like risk their personal like future on covering this up for Shohei. They just wouldn't do
Yeah.
that. It's and then okay, so on top of that, we also have evidence now, actual audio recording of it. So all of the pieces are adding up that support Shohei's story versus Ippei's story. And guess what? The very first thing that happened in all of this when we found out was Ippei admitted it. Like
Yeah.
right off the bat. So like if you can't believe it at this point, then you're just never going to believe it, or you're choosing not to. And it's
Totally.
like Ippei fell on the sword, so to speak, right away. No, I'm kidding, but no, he definitely. I mean, he had no interest in trying to like fight it as if he was trying to cover it up for himself.
Jesse, I kind of disagree that I don't think that he didn't have any interest. I don't think he had the ability. You know what I mean? I think
He had nothing to go on. Yeah,
I think
right.
he knew, like, hey, man, I've been on the phone. I have left evidence. I was just hoping nobody looked under the rug, right? Like maybe nobody would see it and it would never get there. But that ain't the way this cookie crumbled, dude. I mean, think about it now. Like, the guy cannot get employed. His mom lost her job or had to leave her job as a nurse. I don't know if his wife works, but they're trying to have kids. It's just like, dude, this guy betrayed the most beloved person in an entire country, right? He's maybe the most beloved. Shohei Ohtani is maybe the most beloved Japanese man of all time, but definitely at least in this century. But Jess, it reminds me of somebody I remember, dude, a really ostracized person. You may remember him as the lone Japanese survivor of the famed 1912 Titanic sinking, but Masabumi Hosano. He was the only Japanese passenger on the Titanic, and he survived its sinking, right? He was rescued, goes back to Japan, and is just condemned. He loses his job, dude. He's called a coward. He was described as an example of dishonorable behavior in school textbooks, and he was denounced immoral by a professor of ethics. I mean, the guy lived completely as a recluse until his death in 1939, man.
Because he didn't go down with the ship?
Because he didn't go down with the ship. So maybe that was on Ippei's mind, and he knows he has to go down with the ship, dude. That's why.
He didn't commit harikari. Harikiri? Is that what it's called? Yeah.
But, dude, like, hey, there's precedent for it. One of my favorite historians, Dan Carlin, he has a phrase that says, the Japanese are just like everyone else, except more so. So when you can take that into account with their dedication to baseball right now that we're seeing with superstars, just on the Dodgers, Ohtani, Yamamoto, Sasaki, seems like there's a higher drive. We've been talking about that being the new breadbasket of ultra talent in the baseball world. But man, when it comes to self-hate and being ostracized, dude, nobody does it better than the Japanese. So.
No, they're a very proud culture. So they expect people to, take shame in making mistakes or to fall on the sword, so to speak.
Well, dude, I wouldn't be surprised
literally or whatever. It's very much like a culture built on honor. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if Ippei is in some school textbooks in the next 5 to 10 years in Japan going, this is a dishonorable man. You don't want to be like Ippei, dude. But you know what? Maybe him and Masabumi's relatives can get together. They can talk about it, and hopefully nothing but growth and forgiveness from here on out for Ippei Mizuhara.
This is why Deferred Collusion is the best baseball podcast on the planet, because we can take one of the top stories in the game and we can relate it to a tragedy that happened over 100 years ago. This is how we do it.
They say history doesn't repeat itself, Jess, but it does rhyme. So please remember to like and subscribe. Your boys, the Deferred Collusion style, dude.
Beautiful.
Hit us in the comments. Let us
you're flowing. You're flowing today, buddy. You're flowing today. So obviously, that's a situation that's we'll update you guys as we get more info on that. I'm sure more evidence is going to come out. But on the topic of, to get back to Roki and the reaction that we've gotten, we got a couple more signings, Brandon, that we haven't discussed yet, and I audibly laughed when they happened, because I knew that there was a chance that the Dodgers would be signing a reliever. I didn't know they'd be signing the top 2 relievers remaining on the market after getting Blake Snell, re-signing Teo, extending Edman, signing Sasaki, all of the things that they did. The Dodgers signed Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates. Tanner Scott, if you remember, Dodger fans remember, is the guy that struck out Ohtani 4 times in the National League Division Series and was basically like Ohtani's kryptonite throughout the year. And the Dodgers said, well, you know what we'll do? We'll get rid of that problem. We'll just bring him onto our team so he never has to pitch to Ohtani again. And I mean, this guy has been one of the best relievers in baseball. This guy could potentially be the Dodgers closer this year.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah, we might. Dodgers have a different way of doing things. We might see closer by committee just based on matchups and stuff. But he's excellent, electric arm, 4 years, $72 million. Also signed Kirby Yates, who is had
the best year of his career last year, right?
Yeah, had the best year of his career. Been one of the better relievers in baseball. Another guy that once pitched very well in San Diego. So 2 guys that were relievers for the Padres end up on the Dodgers, and I guess apparently Tanner Scott was offered $66 million by, God, I want to say the Red Sox or something.
I think it was the Cubs.
Was it the Cubs? Okay, I forget. So. I apologize. I just blanked right now. But he was offered $66 million, and the Dodgers offered $6 more million. Ended up getting him. They got outbid. But also, why is the $6 million such a big deal? If you need the player, the Dodgers didn't need Tanner Scott as much as other teams did. And
100%.
So why did that happen? Because the Dodgers just have so much money, or because you didn't want to get the extra $6 million?
Well, I mean, it's kind of wild that Tanner Scott wasn't signed until late January.
Flaherty still isn't signed. Bregman isn't signed. Alonso isn't signed. Ha-Seong Kim isn't signed. Kike isn't signed. There's still a lot of players that are unsigned.
Scherzer isn't signed.
Yeah.
There's some huge names on the board still, and you would think that, there are a lot of teams in the hunt, right? In the mix of things with the extended playoffs, but it kind of feels like a lot of teams are punting on the season already and go, you know what? We can't keep up with the Dodgers. We're a small market. We're going to just fuck you. This isn't fair. But we will take that CBT money, all those overages. We'll take all that $50.
Or right, exactly. Yeah, they'll take that portion of the money that they get from the Dodgers paying the luxury tax and all that. Or what they're doing is, they're paying a certain amount of money to get a certain amount of wins, hoping to squeak into the wild card, and then maybe they get lucky. Yeah. Rather than stacking the deck a little bit, adding a little extra, getting a little uncomfortable, and maybe potentially quote unquote guaranteeing a little bit more of success.
Yeah. Something that I thought was interesting in the Tanner Scott press conference, Tanner had mentioned that the Dodgers were one of the first teams, maybe the first team, to reach out in the the postseason. Off-season,
yeah.
About signing him, and just said, hey, kind of check it out, but let us know before you make an offer. We're really interested. So, Jess, it just kind of feels like maybe the Dodgers were that pretty girl at a party that were like, oh, hey, you're here? I'd love to get a drink later. Have fun. And now you're sticking around fuck, there's a lot of other pretty gals at this party.
Yeah.
Got old fucking Winnie Cooper over here. The apple of my eye wants to have a bevy with old fucking Tanner Scott. I'm in, dude. And to be honest, dude, that's what Kirby Yates was thinking. 37 years old. I think he's only pitched 2 innings in the playoffs in his whole career. He was with San Diego. I remember him with the Diamondbacks, I believe, for a while.
Was he on the Rangers? I think he was on the Rangers last year.
Most recently with the Rangers last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, a guy that's been in the league a while, battled, now is kind of getting an opportunity to do it where it counts in the playoffs, right? Like, I know a lot of baseball to play. Injuries are prolific as ever, but assuming health.
Right.
A back of that bullpen right now, I think as it stands, Jess, you got Trinan, Scott, you got Yates, Evan Phillips, Alex Vesia, Anthony Banda,
Gratterall.
Brusar Gratterall, probably Dustin May in the pen.
Yeah.
And I know I'm missing somebody.
And Kasparius.
Landon Knack, that whole cast of guys.
Yeah. No, it's a murderer's row right now. But I mean, the Dodgers also.
Dude, I was going to say that.
How many arm injuries they had last year? They are. Yeah, obviously they have the financial flexibility to do that, or the financial might to do this. I shouldn't say flexibility. They have the finances to do this. But this is the Shohei deal paying off right now. Is the $68 million deferred paying off, which I do want to mention really quickly that, because everybody gets mad about how the Dodgers are able to make these signings because of that deferment. The Blue Jays just signed Anthony Santander. Half of his contract is deferred. $20 million or something like a good chunk of Corbin Burns' contract is deferred.
What?
Yeah. So either the Dodgers just set a trend.
Wait, did they just do something completely within the rules?
Yeah. The Dodgers either just set a trend or maybe it's just good business, guys. I don't know.
Maybe, dude. Well, Jess, the Dodgers are being labeled the big bad villains, the evil empire in baseball. But
can I actually read something really quick before you get to that point?
Please,
I wanted to share this. I was reading the Jeff Passan article, and this is just absurd, by the way. As a Dodger fan, this is the best thing you'll ever read. But as a baseball fan that hates the Dodgers, this is why you hate them. Over the last 411 days, the Dodgers signed Shohei Ohtani to a 10-year, $700 million contract with $680 million deferred. They traded for right-hander Tyler Glasnow and signed him to a 5-year, $136 million deal.
Pretty good.
They signed Yoshinobu Yamamoto to a 12-year, $325 million contract. They extended Will Smith 10 years, $140 million with $50 million deferred. They signed 2-time Cy Young winner Blake Snell to a 5-year, $182 million contract with $66 million deferred. They signed Tommy Edman to an extension, 5 years, $74 million with $25 million deferred. They signed Michael Conforto to a 1-year, $17 million deal. They signed reliever Blake Trinan to 2 years, $22 million contract. They signed outfielder Teoscar Hernandez to a 4-year, to a pair of deals totaling 4 years and $89 million with $32 million deferred. They signed Haesung Kim out of Korea, 3 years, $12.5 million. They signed Roki Sasaki, and then they signed Tanner Scott, and then they signed Kirby Yates.
That's 13 pretty cool things, or maybe 14.
And it's like 700. It's like 1.4 billion or something, and half of it is deferred.
I love that.
Fucking insane.
Well, Jess, one of my favorite takes that leads right into it, dude, is that basically the Guggenheim Group as a whole are unfair as an ownership group because they're bankers. So they're putting that deferred money, right, that they're putting away in what was it? Oh my God, I had it.
Well, escrow.
Yeah, they're putting it in escrow, and then they're making that deferred money that they're sitting on earn more money.
Right.
To pay it off. So it's not like, oh my God, well, these bills are coming due. It's like, no. They paid it up front, and then they're putting money away to make the final payment.
You're required in the CBA, if you defer money, you're required to put that money in escrow.
Love that.
Because you have to guarantee that the money will be available by the end of the player's contract.
That's
So that,
smart
like,
business, you
well,
know?
it's also just protection for the player so that they don't get
Totally.
fucked over by deferring money. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You
And
can't
that's what I
claim
love
for
about it.
bankruptcy. You can't file for bankruptcy and then not pay it out, basically, is what that
Exactly.
protects
So,
against. Yeah.
and you know, so a lot of people are upset. Dodgers too good. Their team's unfair. They have blah, blah, blah location, blah, 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 blah. But the Cubs owner is claiming that they are just breaking even and they're not pocketing cash, and that's what people need to understand. But Jess, they bought their franchise for $800 million. Yes, just $35 million less than Juan Soto's contract, but it is now worth $4.2 billion. Jesse, if you're just breaking even, how do you accumulate a fucking wealth of $4.2 billion fucking dollars?
Right. And I also saw
math that well, brother, but I know that don't add up, dude.
I saw in the Jeff Passan article, he talked about that. I believe that there was sorry, I'm gonna find this right now. I was reading this last night, and the Cubs, he said that he only made or that they're breaking even, but in the there was a Forbes did an estimate that they have actually earned nearly $600 million before interest, taxes, and everything like that over the past, what is it, 10 years. So, like,
Jesus.
So they have profited. They have profited.
Of course they have.
Yeah. Now that's not to say that, like, they can go and spend, what the Dodgers are spending.
Yeah,
But
and no one's saying they need to, right? But
Right.
what we are saying is that they can invest better in player development. They can make smarter trades. They can take care of staff to do a better job. Like, this is something that, like, we've talked about in the past. It started with the Dodgers right around 2013. They started to change, like, the food programs, making sure there was meals for every player and, like, nutritious meals, right? And it was just these little quality of life things that started to rise up from the bottom up. And then it's like, oh, well, you keep having, coaches that are happy, which makes players happy, and it creates this sense of cohesion.
And none of that counts against your luxury tax, and none of it counts against your payroll.
And I mean, to further my point, man, you see, just open up Twitter or YouTube, whatever, you can see the Dodger Stadium is under renovation again. They're doing clubhouse stuff that doesn't even affect, fans, but they've put a ton of money, hundreds of millions, into the fan experience. So it's not just this, like, oh, blank check of acquiring superstars throughout the league, but it's international signings as well, creating a destination for player development, analytics, using that to further develop players.
And I mean, also,
it's just this collective sum of, like, it's greater than its, like, individual parts. But now those individual parts are just buttressed and even more great than other franchises. And it's not to say that other franchises aren't good at developing talent or attracting talent or whatever, but there is an obvious, like, malaise to spending, and it's not just about spending or overspending, but about, like, market value. And we've heard players talk about this in the past, that it's created a chasm for just new young players who are going to be, cost controlled, and then these, like, mega stars. And there's a chasm in between it for your, like, veteran guys, used to be journeymen, glue guys, whatever, culture guys, guys that help reinforce your team. Now they're, kind of men without a country, guys like Jack Flaherty, Alex Bregman, a couple of high profile guys right there, just still unsigned as of the end of January. And I mean, Jess, we can bitch at the Dodgers for overspending, but this whole problem, this whole three-headed monster that the Dodgers have, is created by other teams' frugal nature. Mookie Betts was let go as a cost-cutting measure. Freddie Freeman, after winning the World Series, wasn't re-signed so that they can get a younger, more affordable player. Any team could have signed Freddie to a 6-year, $160 million deal, or whatever it is exactly, with deferred money, but they didn't. Not everybody could offer Shohei $700 million. even if, he just wanted to stay on the West Coast, there's 4 other teams. I don't consider John Fisher's A's as, one of those teams on the West Coast that could have signed him. He signed with the Angels to begin
Branden,
with.
The fucking Blue Jays offered that deal to Shohei. The Blue Jays, who are in Canada, offered that money to Shohei. Shohei chose the Dodgers, and to choose to go back to the point about Tom Ricketts, the owner of the Cubs. He bought it. I think you might have mentioned this, but he bought it for $800 million, and now it's worth $4.2 billion. I mean, here's the thing: okay, you could technically spend more money, and maybe you make less profit, but you're guaranteed a better chance of winning a more competitive product, but B, it could only the more competitive you are, the better you are, the more ticket sales you have, the more playoff games that you get goes into your overall the overall money you make. So you're actually going to make some of that money back in playoffs anyway. You'll get some profit in playoffs because you increase ticket prices and things like that.
And Jesse, not to mention, you make new fans. You make new fans when you're a winner, and that sells more merchandise, more jerseys, more, like you said, tickets. That increases revenue for your club.
Right, but also, it's worth $4.2 billion. I mean, if you're going to sell the team one day, you're spending an extra $50 million a year over 10 years or something like that. Then you're worth like $5 or $6 billion 10 years from now, and you sell the team, you're still going to make a massive profit on your investment. So you can't tell me that spending a little extra money is bad because you're you're only making $100 million a year rather than $50 million a year. Come on.
And look, man. Being an MLB owner is a great racket. Or any sports team, majors franchise, you get to be the rich guy with that shiny toy. It's a monopoly. There's only so many available, and it's a little chip on your shoulders. But a lot of guys, we know this as McCourt era Dodger fans, don't necessarily reinvest in their team, and they use their team's profits to fund other ventures, whether they be.
The Red Sox were kind of doing too. The Red Sox were having this problem a little bit after because I know that some of the Red Sox owners, Jared Carrabis has talked about this a lot, that some of the Red Sox owners are involved in so much other stuff that they don't consider the Red Sox their top priority.
Yeah.
Because they have other businesses and stuff, and it's well, dude, if you're gonna invest, sports teams are just. You got to have somebody who's all in on the sports team, because that's
absolutely
you have a city depending on it, a local economy depending. There's so many different aspects of this. To that point about how there's a point of spending money, and there's a point of just being reckless with money, which is where I think the Padres went wrong, because I think they became reckless rather than they were willing to spend because they were desperate to compete with the Dodgers, right? But they also became reckless because they got too desperate, and then you go out and you sign a guy like Xander Bogaerts to that absurd deal, and now here you're in this ownership dispute because of obviously the unfortunate passing of Peter Seidler, and now the family is sort of torn apart over it. The wife is suing the sons, or the brothers of Peter Seidler, I apologize.
Yeah.
And the Padres haven't been able to make a single move. They lose Jurickson Profar to the Atlanta Braves, who I thought was a lock to stay with San Diego. I thought was just a total lock. It was a 3-year. What was the contract? 3 years something?
42 million, something like that.
3 years, 42 million, exactly. And I mean, the Padres went out and got Ron Marinaccio. Apparently, whatever. Good. He's got good stuff.
Didn't they sign Martin Maldonado to a minor league deal?
But Marinaccio was DFA'd by the Yankees.
Man. There is a little bit of me that has been wondering if the 2024 Dodgers in the NLDS killed this era of the Padres. With the passing of Peter Seidler, like you mentioned, and now all the I guess uncertainty with ownership. I mean, Profar was even saying that, hey, he wanted to go back to San Diego, but they're having some ownership problems, and the money wasn't there, or the offer wasn't there. And, Jess, I remember after that Game 5 loss to the Dodgers, there was a picture of the Padres dugout, and you could see guys like Jackson Merrill, and the whole team's out on the steps, but notoriously absent were Profar, Tatis, and Machado. And, a part of me feels like this Machado era in San Diego is coming to an end. That's a lot easier said than done. They just re-signed him, I think it was last year or maybe 2023, to another extension. But, they're disconnecting that Miami Vice style pink and turquoise or whatever City Connects after this season. And it really feels like they're starting to get their ducks in a row of shrinking payroll. And what's that?
I kind of like those jerseys. I
don't hate them. I think they're fine.
I don't know. I have a soft spot for them.
They're not cute. I wouldn't wear one, but
no.
If that's your style, rock it.
They're very San Diego for sure.
Very San Diegan. But anyways, it has me wondering, like, did the Dodgers kill this era of Padres baseball? Dude, quote me now, but they're going to start shopping Manny in the next couple of years, and they're going to retool and get a bunch of talent for Nando in his age 28, 29 season. I'm telling you, it might be harder said than done, but there's no way they're going to get rid of that Bogarts contract. And Machado's still got enough talent.
I've thought about it a little bit. I understand why you're saying it. Manny is probably the best asset that they could in terms of contracts they have on the books that are tradable. Maybe you could trade the Cronenworth deal, but that even seems a little Chris Taylor-esque at this point, because it's so Cronenworth from year in and year out, you get an 800 OPS from him one year, and then the next year you get a 670 OPS, and you don't really know what you're getting with him. And the Bogarts contract is such a disaster because he wasn't even playable in the NLDS last year, and they were playing Ha-Sung Kim. Or sorry, Ha-Sung Kim was injured. They were playing who was playing shortstop for them?
There was Bogarts. It was Bogarts. He missed a grounder in one of the games. It was.
I thought he was benched for one of the games or something. Either
Maybe,
way,
I don't remember.
But regardless, I'm sorry if I'm mistaken on that. I apologize. I
Idiot.
Retract. But
you're gonna get us lit up.
The point is if they would trading Manny would be such an admission of failure that I don't know that they can do it. I feel like they would hope that Bogarts could turn it around, and then maybe they could package him with eat some money. I don't know what they're gonna do, but it just feels like it'd be such an admission of failure. I'd be shocked if they did it, but where they're at right now, kind of feels.
Well, first, I love that you're calling it it would be a huge admission of failure, but I mean, dude, this sport is littered with those stories. I mean, I some people were saying that about letting Bryce Harper go right for the Nationals, and they go on and win the World Series the next year. So who knows?
We're already seeing it. We're already seeing it with Paul Skenes, man. Apparently he might not even fucking he hasn't even heard about potential. I know that he's still a rookie, but it already seems like it's a conversation that he might not get extended. That he's his time in Pittsburgh will be the end of his time in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the Pirates had their fan weekend or whatever. This past week, Paul Skenes was asked about what it would take to sign long term with Pittsburgh, and he kind of got hit with a blank look on his face. Kind of one of these, just I haven't heard anything about it. Just haven't heard a thing, which is weird when you're that good, and I don't know, your team doesn't have really any quantifiable talent, not talent, but stars. I mean, dude, I know we went off about the Rowdy Tellez thing last ep, but I mean, dude, they can't even spell Andrew McCutcheon's fucking name right. They misspelled it on his placard.
That team is the worst example of not investing into resources around
and it's
the players.
A beautiful park, you know what I mean?
Beautiful park, and but if they just spend a little more money on their analytics and things that I feel I'm convinced that Ke'Bryan Hayes would be twice the player he is right now if they just invested a little bit more in how the players are treated in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, or O'Neal Cruz, or we can go
really
on forever,
run like a cheap business. Yeah,
dude. Yeah, I mean, cheap business. You don't got to look any further, dude. The Paul Skenes 1-of-1 game day jersey card was pulled by an 11-year-old kid, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But he turned down the Pirates offer, which was funny enough, right? It was included a bunch of fan experiences and a softball game, couple signed jerseys from Skenes, but it also was a 30-year behind home plate tickets that were non-transferable, whatever. But like, so you're telling me, say this kid does give it away, that you're gonna like sell him like, all right, well, enjoy your 40th birthday at the park because at 41, this is all wrapping up, and you don't get these tickets anymore. So it's not even lifetime. Like, you're not even making this kid a fan for life. You put a fucking limit on it. Like,
Yeah.
what?
We'll
What?
cover you till you're in your 40s. It's like it's so fucking cheap that good for the kid. I'm guessing he has good parents who saw what they had, because I believe the card went to auction, right? And
It's going to, yeah. But he
go to
wrote,
auction.
he shared his journal. There's some pictures of his journal where he wrote like how bad he wanted these cards, and it was like basically all he asked for Christmas. And
You're telling me that the number one pitching prospect that we've had since Steven Strasburg, the modern day Nolan Ryan, basically with like a rookie card, 1/1. This is a card that's like, we're talking about like potential like generational wealth. Like, good for him. Good for him. I'm glad he's gonna make way more money and way more value from that. He can buy as many tickets as he wants with the money that he's gonna get.
Right, he's gonna for sure. What do you think? I mean, it's
gonna go to
people
college.
Are saying 7 figures. Like I would expect him to get 7 figures.
I think he'd get $1 million for it. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's a great time for collector's items like that.
Yeah, I'm just shocked. I'm just shocked that it wasn't pulled by a breaker. Because every single time I fucking see one of those cards, it's always a fucking breaker on a live stream. Like, totally set up, bullshit, bogus scenario. Like, oh, they just pulled a 1/1 Babe Ruth card. And it's always a guy on his fucking live stream. Come on. The biggest scam in baseball right now is Topps. And they're
big breakers, dude. They're fucking getting us, dude.
Lastly, let's end with really quick. We got to wrap this up, but Blue Jays Vladdy situation going on. Apparently, it seems like the Mets want to make a trade for Vladdy because they don't want to re-sign Pete Alonso. It seems like Pete's not coming back. That's what it seems like. Apparently,
I know
Vladdy
that Mets fans at a fan fest this weekend were chanting, "We want Pete. We want Pete." I mean, he's their last, or I guess their most notable, like homegrown, like star. I want to see him back in New York, but I do feel like the Blue Jays might be in play for him.
Yeah, well, it makes more sense if I'm fucking Juan Soto and the Mets. It kind of feels like Soto's a little bit behind this too. That Vladdy makes a lot more sense long term for the Juan Soto project with the Mets. Pair him up with Vladdy. You can get him in early and then you can extend him. That makes
but not to be outdone, it is being reported that the Blue Jays made an extension offer to Vladdy to the tune of $477. Man,
yeah.
Do you think Vladdy's going to get more than that in the open market?
I think he'll get 5. I think he's young enough. What is he? 26, 25? I think he's young enough.
26.
He's going to get. It'll be the biggest first baseman contract ever.
Wow.
And I do think he's going to go to the Mets anyway. I think that's where he's going. I don't think that we hear about the Mets trying to trade for him if there's not a good chance that he's already thinking about teaming up with Juan Soto over there. Vladdy doesn't want to stay in Toronto.
Well, Jess, before we get out of here, just last 2 players I want to ask you. Where does Pete sign? Where does Bregman sign?
Bregman's interesting because it seems like he really is like Red Sox or bust right now. That's kind of what it feels like. But I think the problem that he's having is that he's not able to get other teams in to like sort of leverage the offer against, like where he can get more money. It seems like he's kind of like sort of stuck in limbo with that. And Alonso, it kind of seems like the Mets don't want him, but he's willing to give a discount to the Mets. And if the Blue Jays are like his best option, that kind of says a lot about what his market is right now. And it's weird because the offseason started with such a massive success, a massive W for Scott Boras. He got Blake Snell his bag. He got Juan Soto, the biggest contract in American sports history. And now his other 2 guys, Bregman and Alonso, like can't get signed. And we're like 1 month away from pitchers and catchers showing up.
It is crazy. It's crazy. Jess, I got a couple of predictions of my own. I agree with you. I think Bregman's going to Boston.
Yeah.
But I think Pete and one last star are actually going to be changing coasts, dude. I think that Jack Flaherty and Pete Alonso signed with the Angels.
Oh my God. We got to go. This is Deferred Collusion. This
Like,
is
subscribe.
Yeah, like, subscribe, do it all. Branden, keep working on those fortifications because the haters are coming and they will not stop. We love you guys. We appreciate you guys.
Like us, subscribe us, comment,
Yeah.
share with your friends if you think we're worth it. It really, really helps us out. And everybody that's been joining us recently, we thank you guys so much. Jesse,
yeah,
love
and
to hang out with you, brother. It's always a blast. I'm Branden, and as always, that's been my man, Jesse James. One step closer to the edge, and I'm about to row.
break. And to everybody born today on January 25th, we apologize. And just make sure brush up on your history. Shout out Masabumi Hisano. We out.